sense of relief and almost weight of the world lifted off a lot of these players and people within the organization, but it just felt like there was this cloud that was gone.
Get it all on Bucks Talk, your all-encompassing Milwaukee Bucks postgame show. Only heard here on the home of the Bucks, WTMJ.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes, allergies, cancer. Nothing will keep the Froedtert and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Froedtert.com to find out how.
Struggling to provide for your family is a real thing, like having to choose between feeding them a warm meal or paying the utility bill. These are the choices many Milwaukee residents are faced with, which is why they turn to St. Vincent de Paul Society's meal program for help. Our meal program has been a consistent resource for those in need for over 42 years. Nutritious meals, warm showers, and clean clothes, all in a safe, family-friendly environment. Our mission is clear, and that's to help you break the cycle of poverty by connecting you with life-changing community and educational resources. Last year, we provided $2.2 million in goods and services, plus 57,000 warm meals. If you or anyone you know needs a warm evening meal, you can find us at Harambe Kitchen 5 nights a week on the northeast side of Milwaukee in the basement of All People's Church. And at Crossroads Kitchen on the south side of Milwaukee 6 nights a week on 9th and Madison. As always, we're grateful for community members and volunteers who help us help you. To learn more, visit svdpmilw.org.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
My doctor told me my blood pressure is borderline. I figured I could worry about it or do something about it. So I took control with Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula. It works safely and naturally to help maintain healthy blood pressure with a custom blend of garlic, vitamins, and minerals. And it's odor-free. I'm taking charge with Garlic Healthy Blood Pressure Formula.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
Now that the game is done, it's our time to check in.
Funnels it to the right side. High catch, high release, and Ousmane Dieng has done it again. The 22-year-old former Oklahoma City Thunder player is having a revenge game.
Bucks Talk starts now.
Huge victory for the Bucks to close out the pre-All-Star portion of the schedule. Milwaukee 110, Oklahoma City 93.
Live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios, here's Justin Garcia.
You know, I don't want to overinflate things and make a bigger deal out of something that it actually is, but it's like the scene from John Wick where he announces, "Yeah, I think I am back." Are the Milwaukee Bucks actually back, and did it just take some scraps, essentially, signing Cam Thomas as a free agent who was waived by the Brooklyn Nets? And the trade for Ousmane Dieng, who has to say he has made an immediate impact, is putting it very lightly. And you go back to what Doc Rivers had to say last night. You know, we finally have a 3, basically. He gives us size. We finally got a 3, and it's a bigger one that can play out there on the wing and perimeter and give us some defensive ability. I was talking about this with somebody else prior to this game, this morning, actually. And the point came up when we were just kind of talking about the rotations and some of the lineups. Man, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing, but I did not realize how important Taurean Prince, you know, that position, but the guy, Taurean Prince, how important he actually was to this team. And I don't know that that's the big issue or the only issue, but a lot of it really starts with that. You didn't have that size on the perimeter. Taurean Prince he knew how to move his feet. He knew where to be defensively. His size was fine. Are you going to ask Taurean Prince to stay in front of Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown in a wing like that and expect him to move his feet enough? No. There's blow-by potential there, but Taurean Prince's overall size, his ability to rebound, he can hit threes and knock down the catch-and-shoot three. It's everything this team has missed. And look, should you aspire for somebody better than Taurean Prince? Certainly in your starting lineup, sure. But these are the cards you were dealt. This is what they had. And, I don't know how many shows and how many times we had to point out the obvious and go over, look, you can't play small anymore and get away with it. Because this whole notion that, well, the league is going big. I don't think the league is going big. It's not like every team is basically doing what Houston was able to do early in the season when they were healthy and say, well, we're just going to be huge. And we're going to be the physical team. We're going to dominate on the glass, and we're going to basically start three guys that are 6'10" or bigger, and we're going to impose our will. Not every single team is doing that. But I'll tell you what just about every single team, at least the good teams, are doing. They are not going small, right? There's a difference between not going big and just not being small. And unfortunately for the Bucks, they were playing small basically the entire season. We can point to the sample size and say, hey, this team was really good last year down the stretch. And Kevin Porter Jr. and Ryan Rollins and KPJ and AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. in the backcourt all together with Giannis and a big, that worked for this team. Last year it was Giannis and Bobby Portis. This year we said it's going to be Giannis and Miles Turner. The numbers were great with that group. So we're just going to do this again, and we're going to lean into the sample size that we have. And the league just continued to change and evolve and basically show you can't get away with that anymore. All of the numbers that I mentioned on the postgame as well, when you look at what this team was doing prior, 6 games is not a huge sample size, so I don't want to make too much of it. But just like this, notion of winning 5 out of 6 games, hey, 3 of the teams are really bad. You know what? So what? You got to start somewhere. And for everybody that wants to, but the Thunder didn't have Shea, they didn't have Jalen Williams. You know what? At this point, I frankly don't care. We've seen this Bucks team get run off the floor by a Minnesota Timberwolves team that was down Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert and others. We've seen the Denver Nuggets playing without their top 5 guys in one of those games, without 5 of their top 7 guys for at least a half in the other game, just completely run through them. You go back 2.5, 3 weeks ago, and fast forward to where this team is right now, you would be hard-pressed to believe this was the same team within the same season. Obviously, because of the personnel, and when you're looking at it and saying, who is Jang, right? Why is this guy starting, and why do I suddenly feel very comfortable with him? But think about going back to October, and if I were to tell you, hey, the Bucks are going to start to look, dare I say, good, right? In comparative to where they were earlier in the season, they do look good. But you know what's going to trigger it? AJ Green, if we have time, we'll get to it, because for whatever reason, he remains probably the most polarizing player on this team. And I saw more of the interaction and was sharing some of that conversation and back and forth with one of the Bucks beat writers earlier tonight in his observations on how AJ Green is viewed by the fan base. But AJ Green's been a big part of it. Kevin Porter Jr. has definitely been a big part of it. But if I were to tell you, you know what the catalyst is for, wow, this team looks different now? It's Jericho Sims, Ousmane Dieng, and Cam Thomas. You would think if I just showed you, here's the leading scorers for the Bucks, here's the most impactful guys, and list the name and the points and rebounds and whatever, and you see those 3 names, and you see Sims, Dieng, Thomas, You would think this was an NBA 2K simulation where you just got 4 years in on your dynasty and like, well, I guess this is what the Bucks look like now. But it's not. And look, there are going to be valleys in this process for Ousmane Dieng. He's looked great in these last 2 games. He's not going to look like this every single game. I get that. Even Cam Thomas last night. The 30-point performance was hitting everything, was hitting the biggest shots of the game. Tonight, Cam Thomas wasn't bad. It wasn't the same efficiency, and it wasn't the same type of night that we saw one night ago. That, in a nutshell, is the Cam Thomas experience. But the Bucks were getting none of the peaks before. So if you're telling me you're only going to get the good 33% of the time, you know what? 33% is a larger volume than 0%. So we'll take that. But it really comes down to the size and rebounding and what has stood out the most during this 6-game stretch. 855-616-1620 is the Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. The size, what it's led to on the glass, and why rebounding is arguably the most important thing in this version of the NBA. We got some numbers to share there. Also, I do want to take a look ahead to the schedule, the rest of some of these matchups that the Bucks have. How does it compare to those teams you're chasing, and what are the most important games remaining on this schedule for the Bucks? We'll dig into that next on Bucks Talk.
This is Bucks Talk.
Business owners
and right-hand men and women.
When you make the catering call for your office gathering,
make it Marty's Pizza.
For pizza, pasta, subs, wings, appetizers, and more.
Delivered in our heated oven delivery trucks.
Our catering delivery range has expanded
all the way east into Brookfield.
Just log on to martyspizza.net for easy online ordering.
Or give us a call at 262-646-3327. 262-646-3327.
Pizza. Do you remember when times were good? Well, they're good again. It's as good today as it was in the past. It doesn't get any better than that. Remember, Marty's Pizza.
Recently, a seller that unfortunately ended up choosing another agent called me. She said she made a mistake, and what she was expressing to me sounded like she kind of was bullied into signing with him. Is it typical? Not always, but it will never happen when you hire a Century 21 Benefit Realty agent. I want our agents to be able to look in the mirror and say, I'd want to work with me, not because they're good at saying what you want to hear or offer the lowest commission, but because of trust. Because if you're not feeling that from your agent, that's a problem, and I don't want that. At 1.9% on the listing side of your sale with our commission capped at $19,000, Century 21 Benefit Realty leads with a very fair and transparent commission structure with maximum marketing that can get your home sold fast and for the best price. And saving money matters, but working with someone who will tell you exactly what you need to know up front, that creates trust. And that matters too. This is Angela Calais with Century 21 Benefit Realty, benefit-realty.com, where you pay less for full service. Each office is independently owned and operated.
Get the beat of the Bucks straight from a fan favorite and Bucks legend.
Welcome to the fantastic voyage. Marcus Johnson, the captain of this vessel.
Tap into Here District with Marcus Johnson, a Bucks Plus audio production.
My first mate, Chris Johnson, the only father and son tandem.
Your weekly pulse on the Milwaukee Bucks and conversations with the biggest names in basketball. This week on the podcast, Bucks radio host Justin Garcia hops on with Marcus and Chris. Find Here District now on bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, or wherever you get your podcast. Welcome back to Bucks Talk.
So I told you rebounding is very arguably the most important thing in the game today. Offenses are very, very good. The way the game is officiated, the offensive player has a massive advantage over the defense. And we're just seeing scoring going up and up and up. And every single year it's going to be, this is the most efficient offense in the history of the world. So, yes, I'm not going to downplay the ability to shoot. But at this point where we've gone with the league, for the most part, the baseline is you're an okay shooter. So it's really like, okay, you either have to be a good two-way player or elite, either defensively elite or you're an elite shooter on offense. The rebounding component is important because that, and turnovers, but rebounding is something like you can control, go and get the ball. That determines how many shots you're going to take. And more importantly, it determines how many shots your opponent is going to get. So you've heard me mention true shot attempts quite a bit. I don't want to bore everyone, but basically true shot attempts are calculated to figure out how many shots did you actually take, because it gets complicated with, well, here were their field goal attempts, but they took X amount of free throws, and, well, would that shot have been a field goal attempt, but he was fouled, so shouldn't we count that? So true shot attempts is a calculation to figure out how many cracks did you actually get at this. So you take your free throw attempts, you multiply it by, a fraction of a point, add that to your field goal attempts, and that's where you get your true shot attempts. So you've heard me reference it a lot. You'll see it referenced a lot in advanced statistics. The Bucks, by the numbers, have been the worst team in the league when you look at the difference in their true shot attempts subtracted from what their opponent is taking on a nightly basis. There were large portions of the season where the Bucks were around -5. Good news, bad news. The bad news is they are still tied for last with the Washington Wizards in the difference in true shot attempts you are getting versus what your opponent is getting. The good news is that number is shrinking, and all of a sudden the Bucks are in striking distance of getting all the way up to 25. But here's the importance in that. When you look at the teams that are down there, that are seeing the biggest discrepancy, they are among the worst teams in the league. I already told you the Bucks are tied with the Wizards for a while, and this started to change when they went on this, whatever it's become now, I think 21 out of 26 run that the Clippers have been on. For a while, the Clippers were down there with those teams. The Dallas Mavericks have been the third worst team in the league. The Chicago Bulls were in there as well. It's bad teams that are down there. Even some good teams are in the middle of the pack, but you cannot be bad at that. You cannot give up that much of a difference because of what we just said with how good offenses are. If I give you 5 more chances to score than I'm taking on a nightly basis, you are going to beat me every single time we play. It's basically going to take an outlier performance. It's going to take one of those rarities of like, well, that team was just cold and they went 7 of 42 from 3. That's how you won the game. When you're doing that and when you're giving the opponent that many more chances to score than you're taking, that's what it takes is luck to end up winning these games. Right? Either that or win on the margins. But you're already losing a lot of the margins because here's the way or ways that you get more of those true shot attempts than your opponent. Offensive rebounding. Are you crashing the glass and getting more chances? Well, the Bucks don't do that. So no, they're not doing that. Okay. Are you generating turnovers? No. They don't do that either. And here's where it gets especially problematic. If you're not generating turnovers to get those shot attempts, if you're not getting offensive rebounds, so you're not getting those shots, okay, well, are you at least getting defensive rebounds? And are you limiting the second chance opportunities your opponent gets so it can actually just be a push? No. Are you protecting the ball? Well, no, we're actually not doing that either. So that's what we had seen for, 40, the first 5 or so games. The Bucks were a good team. So that's what we've seen for 35 to 40 games this season, basically. So here's the important part. That is in this case, it is truly a 47-game sample size that we're comparing here to a 6-game sample size, which no one in their right mind would tell you, well, yeah, I mean, this is clearly going to carry through the rest of the way. And yes, I'm looking at a like-for-like comparison here. I get that. But again, just with the win streak and just with the rest of these numbers we pointed out, you know what? You got to start somewhere. And then just continue doing it is the important part for this group. So, prior to this 5 out of 6 wins, these last 6 games, the Bucks were 29th in offensive rebounding rate, 25.4%. So, in other words, when they missed a shot, 25% of the time they get the ball back. Your opponent is getting it 75%. They were 20th in defensive rebounding rate at 68.8%. So, again, your opponent misses a shot. We'll round it up. 69% of the time, you're getting that ball. I just told you with them, the opponent is getting the ball 75% of the time that they miss, and you're getting it 69%. So you can already see where things start to get out of whack there. And then overall rebounding rate, they're 29th at 48%. So less than half of the time, the opponent or a shot is missed, you or your opponent. Less than half the percent of the time, you are getting that. In this six-game stretch, offensive rebounding rate is 17th at 30%. So they've jumped up 5 percentage points. Defensive rebounding rate is 4th best in the league at 74.7%. They've moved up 6 percentage points. And their overall rebounding rate is 7th in the league at 53%. They have moved up 6 percentage points there. That is a massive leap. Even if it's 6 games versus 40, whatever it was, games. That is massive movement. And it starts with size, right? Part of it, too, is we have more size. We are going to crash the offensive glass. But those defensive numbers, the overall rebounding numbers, it's size. It's playing bigger. Because a lot of the times, I remember the first 20 games into the season, charting this and looking at, okay, the rebounding numbers are not what we've grown accustomed to seeing here. The Bucks had traditionally been one of the best rebounding teams in the league, and they were never good at offensive rebounding, right? They were always doing it because they were elite at defensive rebounding. They closed the possession and didn't give you those second chance opportunities. And they were so good at doing that, it controlled the overall rebounding numbers that they were routinely one of the best rebounding teams in the league. About 20 games into the season is when it really started to register of like, what is going on here? This team is not only not performing to that level, they are bad at rebounding the ball. And in those like 15 to 20 games that I looked at, and to be clear, this wasn't the only problem. But a lot of times the issue started in the starting lineup. And you look at what are the wings from the opponent doing on the glass versus what are our starting wings doing. Offensive rebounds were up big time with the opponent starting 2-guard and small forward. And again, you're playing guys out of position. You're playing A.J. Green at the 3 or Gary Trent Jr. at the 3. And when you were playing Ryan Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. together, you're playing basically Miles Turner, Giannis, when you were healthy, and 3 guys that are 6'4". You can't play small anymore. Teams are physical. Teams are crashing the offensive boards, and that's one of the margins the Bucks were losing at. That's how the opponent was getting up more shots, and with that, that's how the opponent was scoring more points. Like the problem when we talked about true shot attempts and what's the difference that you're taking versus what the opponent is taking. The problem has not been the Bucks' own true shot attempts. They're not great. But they're not worst in the league at true shot attempts per game. The problem is the opponent's average per game. That is where they are near the bottom because of those things, because you're getting beat on the defensive glass, giving up offensive rebounding opportunities to the opponent, and not forcing turnovers. Those have been the problems for most of this season. And again, I'm not here to tell you Ousmane Dieng is the guy that has changed everything and changes it all, but he's certainly been a big help for this group, especially when you consider what you got him for. Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey were 2 expiring contracts that, frankly, had no future and had no role with this team anymore. I mean, Cole Anthony was exiled from the rotation, basically. Amir Coffey only played right before the trade because of injuries. And you go back to, I am, again, not trying to say this is the impact that Ousmane Dieng is going to have, but you go back to the year the Bucks won the championship. They traded DJ Augustine and DJ Wilson for PJ Tucker. Two guys that, again, were giving you nothing. Had no role with your team, had no future with your team. You did include second-round picks as well. You didn't have to do that in this trade. And there's a lot to like about Ousmane Dieng. So, 23-30 now on the season. You're still 11th, right? You've won 5 out of 6. The vibes are certainly great. I was talking to somebody else that's on the road trip, too, that said, I said, look, from the outside, it seems like there's pretty good vibes around the team right now, and was told, yes, can confirm. It's definitely noticeable how much this team seems to be in a different space right now. All of it is great. You're winning. You got new pieces that are contributing. You're still in 11th in the Eastern Conference. So I mentioned how the schedule shifts to being very home-heavy coming out of the All-Star break. There are some very important games right out of the chute as well. So the most important remaining games for the season, I looked at it in 2 batches for different reasons. We'll get to the most important games and what the numbers suggest coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
You're listening to Bucks Talk.
Save on the best quality furniture and mattresses during the President's Day sale at Ken Michaels Furniture. With major discounts from our premier suppliers, you will save big bucks on top brands like Bradenton Young, made in the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains. Bradenton Young is known for its fine quality leather upholstery. Yours brings you modern Scandinavian design recliners and sofas, ergonomically engineered for more hip and back support. Norwalk, with American roots that go back over 100 years, specializes in making furniture just for you. Choose the piece, style, fabric, or leather you want, and in just 35 days, we'll deliver your new sofa, chair, or sectional. In-stock or special orders are all sale priced. Need a little help putting it all together? At Ken Michaels Furniture, our design staff is ready to help you with your purchases, and it's free. Stop in today and save now during the President's Day sale at Ken Michaels Furniture in Brookfield, Greenfield, or downtown Milwaukee.
Hey, it's WTMJ's Kristen Bry, and I want to tell you about the dentist I recommend, my dentist, Dr. James Michaels at Conmawalk Dental Care. If you've been putting off a cleaning, dealing with tooth sensitivity, or you're ready to finally fix what's been bothering you, this is a great place to start. Dr. Michaels and his team are welcoming, thorough, and focused on your comfort. They explain your options clearly and help you feel at ease in the chair. From regular checkups to crowns, cosmetic improvements, implants, and Invisalign, they can handle it all. And if something happens unexpectedly, they offer emergency dentistry too. I make the drive from Milwaukee to Oconomowoc just to see Dr. Michaels and his fantastic staff. They're that good. So call 262-567-7224 to request an appointment today, or just visit drmichaelsdentalcare.com. That's 262-567-7224 or drmichaelsdentalcare.com.
After a serious accident, you'll need a winning team to protect your rights. Trust Wisconsin's own Gruber Law Offices, proud partner of your Milwaukee Bucks. If you've been injured, call Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all.
Staples has hot deals and low prices on everything for your business, like up to $125 off your print order. Ends 4/18. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
The Round Ball Repartee returns. This is Bucks Talk.
Bucks win in Oklahoma City tonight, so also, do we owe the league an apology? I mean, we were very critical when Rivalries Week was announced and kind of laughed at the Bucks and the Thunder rivals. That's who's playing each other back in January. Maybe there is something here now because the performance in the NBA Cup final, where the Bucks held the Thunder to their worst offensive outing of the season. Tonight, 2/3 of the way through the season, this is the worst offensive outing the Thunder have had all season. And it was trending towards potentially being the largest margin of victory an opponent has had against the Thunder, which still stands at 27 by the Charlotte Hornets. But you know what? Maybe there is actually something to that rivalry. So 53 games in means you got 29 games left. I mentioned the most important games remaining for the Bucks. To me, it is it's basically 12 games. And there's another one you could sneak in there, so say like 13, but I'm going to stick with these 12 for different reasons and in different pockets on the schedule. So, first up, right out of the All-Star break, I mentioned you start in New Orleans, and then after that, you play 9 of 10 games at home, and that one road game is in Chicago, a bus ride from Milwaukee, where you're going to be home, basically, from February 21st. The Bucks will probably get home at like 1 or 2 in the morning. They're going to be home until mid-March. February 24th, so 3 games in, you have the Miami Heat in Milwaukee. Miami, Atlanta, Orlando, and Charlotte. Like, those are the most important teams to keep an eye on here. The Bucks are already done with the Hornets. They won that season series, 2-1, which may prove to be very important. Miami on the 24th. Atlanta at home on March 4th. Orlando at home on March 8th. Miami on the road on March 12th. Atlanta on the road on March 14th. Those 5 games are the most important games that the Bucks have. Because as of this moment, it's clear they are pushing for the playoffs. Okay, so take care of business in those games against those teams that are directly in front of you. Again, the good news is 3 of those 5 games are at home for the Bucks. Just as good as what we mentioned, Charlotte, you've already won that season series. Orlando, that 1 game left, the winner of that game is going to win the head-to-head season series. Atlanta, you've already beat them 1 game in the bank with those 2 games remaining. So split those 2 games, you win the season series with the Atlanta Hawks. Miami, you're going to have to win both of those games to win the tiebreaker there. So that is the only one where the Bucks are not on solid ground right now. Other than that, all of those teams that you are chasing, you're in a good spot against. You have either won the head-to-head series, you're in a position to win it, or you still have a chance, right, in the case of Miami. The other set of 7 games that are most important. First game out of the break in New Orleans against the Pelicans. March 1st, we referenced this one. In Chicago against the Bulls. March 7th at home against the Jazz. March 15th at home against the Indiana Pacers. March 19th in Utah against the Jazz. And then 2 of your final 3 games of the season. And this is the under-the-radar, man. Let's circle this and keep an eye, because if the standings remain tight, wow, the Bucks may have really caught a break here. April 7th in Brooklyn against the Nets. April 10th at home against the Brooklyn Nets. And actually, those are 2 of your final 4 games of the season, I believe. But still, 2 games against the Nets going out. It's kind of like what you had with New Orleans last year towards the end of the season. So 7 games left against teams that are clearly tanking. Realistically, with the way that we have seen the Utah Jazz approach some of these games, and by the way, they were just fined $500,000, which their owner, Ryan Smith, spoke out about and said he disagrees with the notion that what they're doing is an insult to the level of competition in the league and everything else. But they were fined $500,000 for blatantly tanking. I think you could probably go 6-1 in those games against the teams that are really trying to increase their odds in the lottery. Yeah, you could go 6-1 and still be in a pretty good spot. Realistically, like if you want to be, okay, I take this team seriously, you got to win all 7 of them. It's not impossible, especially if what we've seen the last 2 nights. If you are going to play like this, the process, not necessarily the result. If you're going to play like this, you're going to win those games against those 7 teams, right? Just don't give them a chance to beat you. Don't let them hang around. Don't let them stick around in the game. Like, don't let them beat you is basically the takeaway from these games. Like, if you come out and you take it from us, we're going to let you have it. That's what Utah has said. Miami didn't take it from them, and it ended up costing them. Atlanta didn't take it from them, or at least tried not to until the very end. So if you just go out there and take it early, they're going to, great, this is yours. Go ahead and take it. So it's not unrealistic. I would have laughed at it before these last 6 games when we haven't really seen this Bucks team build anything like this. It can be done. If you do that, and if you go 7-0 in those games, that already puts you at 30 wins, which would leave 22 games remaining. And then the important part is, what do you do in the final 22? If you go 11-11, you're going to be in the playoffs. The way that this conference has been, if you get to 500 at this point, you are going to be in the playoffs. I think 9-13 would probably get it done too. Like 39 wins. Look, disappointing, not ideal, not where any of us expected this team to finish, not where most of us expected this team to finish, but 39 wins, it probably gets you into that 9-10 line in the Eastern Conference. But it just, again, shines a light on some of those games we talked about earlier in the season where it's, man, this game, that Sacramento Kings game at home, the Miami Heat game that was winnable, all these winnable games you have that you just let slip away, that is one of the big differences in this team, in the Atlanta Hawks, in other teams, in that all these games count. They take on more significance the later you get in the season or the more marquee a matchup is. They all count in the standings. And the Bucks, unfortunately, have quite a few games already that you look back on and you say, man, that one could cost us. Like, that one's going to hurt. You could probably count 6 or 7 of those. And, you don't even have to be greedy. Let's say 4 of those 7 went your way. You're 27-26, right above 500. That's the margins that you're dealing with here. But those 12 games, right? You've got 29 remaining. Those 12 games are the most important games for the Bucks for very, very different reasons. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line to join us tonight on Bucks Talk. And here's the other thing to point out. The Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic, the Charlotte Hornets, the Atlanta Hawks, they all have easier schedules remaining than the Bucks. So those 7 against New Orleans, Chicago, Indiana, Utah, and Brooklyn, those 7 are absolutely critical. 6 games is mandatory to, at the very least, win 6 of those 7 games. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line. The standings, what the latest projections say. I just said I feel like 39 wins will get you into that 9-10 line. We'll see what the numbers suggest coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
The Hardwood Homilies continue after this. This is Bucks Talk.
Say I love you with the gift of music this Valentine's Day weekend as the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra welcomes Grammy-nominated vocalist Steve Lipia for a Simply Swingin' Valentine February 13th through the 15th at the Bradley Symphony Center. Don't wait for Cupid to do all the work. You can reserve your seats now by calling 414-291-7605 or visit mso.org. Enjoy a most romantic date night as Steve Lippia and the MSO serve up a mix of jazzy songs and arrangements made popular by the likes of Nat King Cole, Tony Bennett, and Frank Sinatra. You and your date are sure to go home humming and whistling tune after memorable tune from the Great American Songbook. A Simply Swinging Valentine runs February 13th through the 15th only, so call the box office now for tickets and more information. The number again is 414-291-7605 or online at mso.org.
For 176 years, St. Vincent de Paul Society of Milwaukee has been neighbors helping neighbors, working to eliminate poverty and hunger with compassion and dignity. When families face hard times, our volunteers step in. Over 600 trained volunteers ready to meet people where they're at, in their homes. And that's what our Neighbors Helping Neighbors home visit program is all about. Volunteers travel in pairs, listening first, then offering personalized support. They provide families and individuals with things like furniture, beds, food, clothing, and connect them to vital community resources, help that provides stability during challenging times. These home visits don't just address an immediate need, they help create a safer, more stable future for our families and individuals in our community. Last year alone, St. Vincent de Paul Society volunteers completed nearly 11,000 home visits across Milwaukee County, serving those who need us most. Together, we are neighbors helping neighbors. To learn more about our mission or get involved, visit svdpmilw.org.
At Advent, nasal congestion and sinus infections can be solved with an in-office 20-minute procedure. Elsewhere, expect surgery.
Prizes, flyaways, even cash money. You want it? We've got it. Find a list of all contests and official rules by visiting WTMJ.com/contests. That's WTMJ.com/contests.
This is Bucks Talk.
All right, so we have not seen the latest yet. This is not taking tonight's games into account. There's two sites I use for this. One of them is 2 games behind. But just to give you an idea of where things were, and it's going to be fascinating, we'll say this time, to see where things check out tomorrow morning. So you can see, okay, here was 2 days ago, here was yesterday. Wow, here's where it is today, if there's any movement at all. But as of basically yesterday afternoon, so going into the second game against Orlando, the Bucks were 21-30 at that point. They had a 13% chance of getting the 10 seed via playoffstatus.com, which we've referenced on this show through the years. It tracks win probabilities, and they have their formulas for putting it together of what's your remaining schedule, how have you performed in these teams, what can we factor in for injuries and some other metrics. So a 13% chance of getting the 10 seed is what they had them at. 19% chance for the Bulls to get the 10 seed. The Charlotte Hornets, 27% in there. And there was a 78% chance. By the way, a 6% chance at the 9 seed they had, but a 78% chance that the Bucks were going to miss the playoffs is what playoff status had. Again, that's not including yesterday's win against the Magic or tonight's win against the Thunder. On Basketball Reference, with their projected standings, where they look at your remaining strength of schedule, how you've performed, the rest of your advanced numbers, and comparing that to the schedule that you have remaining, and they go through all the scenarios of realistically, what are we projecting your record is going to be the rest of the way? What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? And with that, what are the odds of you finishing here, or here? So, Basketball Reference has the Bucks with a 92% chance of missing the playoffs, and this was factoring in the win against the Magic, not tonight's win. They were projecting the Bucks to go 12-18 the rest of the way. So let's see where that's at in both of these cases tomorrow. Or maybe it's 14 and 16 that they have that projection for. And, if that's the case, then we're looking at, 14 and 16, it would be a little more than that. We're missing 29 games, so maybe it's 13 and 15, we'll say. Right now, they have the Atlanta Hawks projected to finish 10th with 39 wins. So again, if you can get to 39 wins, not ideal, but a 39 and 43 record, and 16 and 13 is what it takes to get there. 16 and 13 with 7 games left against tanking teams. And frankly, we may be able to throw the Memphis Grizzlies in there as well, who have already traded Jaren Jackson Jr. They traded Desmond Bane in the offseason. So maybe it's actually 8 games remaining against teams that are trying to tank. There's 5 games remaining against teams that have, frankly been disappointments. And if you're going to start to pick up some steam, are right in the same spot as you are. That then we're all of a sudden talking about 13 of your remaining 29, basically half of your games. That's it. That's what starts to kind of move the numbers a little bit in favor of the Bucks. But yeah, to get to 39 wins from here on out for this Bucks team, 16 and 13. Why isn't that doable? Especially if we are led to believe, possibly as early as next Friday, you are going to get Giannis back on the floor in some capacity. And now you've started to find things. There could be a little bit of a rough patch, upon his return because of what has frankly changed since he's been gone. And hey, now we got some other guys to work in around you. Now we got Cam Thomas that's going to be able to get a shot. Now we got Ousmane Dieng that we'll see how that looks. And ideally, if we could throw out some defensive lineups that are Ousmane Dieng, Giannis, Miles Turner, Ryan Rollins, we feel really good about some of the stops and the rebounding that we're going to get. So 16 and 13 is not crazy to suggest, and frankly, even better at this point. 17 and 12 is not crazy. You go 17 and 12, 40 and 42 again. Disappointing, 5 months ago. But I don't know that 40 and 42 would have been disappointing a month and a half, 6 weeks ago. 855-616-1620, the Siding Unlimited talk and text line here on Bucks Talk. Final show before the All-Star break. 2 other games are being played as we speak. One of them very late in the fourth quarter, and it involves one of those teams we referenced earlier. We'll check in on both of those scores and get you set for All-Star Weekend coming up after this on Bucks Talk.
This is Bucks Talk.
Heart disease won't stop us. Diabetes, allergies, cancer. Nothing will keep the Freighter and the Medical College of Wisconsin Health Network from pushing Wisconsin ahead. We're constantly raising the bar for medical excellence and providing more ways to receive it, so you have it for all your health needs, big and small. Let's push ahead, and we'll make life here as great as it can be. Visit Freighter.com to find out how.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Welcome back to Winter Hack Radio, the place for clever hacks to survive the season. Icy driveway? Well, try spreading sand or birdseed to help with traction. Snowy puppy paws? Well, grab a whisk, brush it off, done. Catch COVID-19? Well, just get...
Actually, there's no hack for COVID-19. But if you test positive, prescription medications for COVID exist. Ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
MW Marine.
Love to fish? This Saturday, head to MW Marine for a free fishing seminar and open house. Meet Steve Heiting, the Vexus Mercury Pro, and Captain Dominic Knackert, the Lund Mercury Pro, and pick up tips you can use on the water right away. Plus, hear the Coast Guard Auxiliary Vessel Safety Seminar and check out all the new boats. No reservations needed. Just come. The fishing fun starts at 10:30 this Saturday at MW Marine.
February means big savings at Exterior Pros and Baths. Upgrade your home with energy-efficient windows, durable roofing, new siding, or a beautiful bath makeover and get $3,000 off your project. That's $3,000 in instant savings, but only for a limited time during our February winter savings event. Call 262-800-4274 or visit extpros.com now. Exterior Pros and Baths. Big savings done right.
Welcome back to Bucks Talk.
All right, we got two games on the schedule tonight that are currently being played in Utah. Surprise, surprise, the Jazz are currently losing to the Portland Trail Blazers 127 to 115. Jaren Jackson Jr. was ruled out, and they haven't officially ruled him out for the remainder of the season. It sounds like he's going to miss the season. He had a growth that they discovered on his knee. Apparently, they discovered it during the physical for the trade, but it is a serious ailment. It is, I believe, a non-cancerous tumor. So it is an actual and a serious surgery. It's just very coincidental for this to come out now. And the Jazz have been tanking as hard as they can and fined $500,000 today. How many players do you think you could name from the Utah Jazz right now?
Minus Jaren Jackson, I would say.
If I gave you Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lauri Markkanen, how many can you name after that?
Kessler's still on their team, right? Walker Kessler?
Okay, so better question. Yes, he is. He's injured and out for the season.
Right, active. Yeah.
How many of their starters do you think you could name tonight?
I don't think I can.
Give me one guess.
Does Tyus Jones play for them?
He does not.
Dang.
I'm trying to see, are there any Marquette ties? I mean, there's some interesting names on this team. Yeah, none. Okay, so
have the Bucks played them yet?
No, they have two games left against the Jazz, which are going to be very, very interesting. It's 127 to 116 with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Here's the Jazz starters tonight. Kyle Filipowski.
Duke guy, right?
Yeah. Bryce Sensabaugh. Cody Williams, the brother of Jalen Williams. Cody Williams is starting for them at forward. Ace Bailey, who was a lottery pick this past summer.
I should have got that one.
Probably, yeah. I mean, but that's right. He's there. Isaiah Collier, a pick from a couple of years ago from USC. But this bench, I mean, if you can name the Utah Jazz bench, you are a true NBA sicko. Blake Hinson, Svi Mihailuk, John Conchar, and Vince Williams, who came over in that trade with Memphis. Kevin Love, Yusuf Nurkic are both, surprise, surprise, not playing in this game tonight. Elijah Harkless and Oscar Tshiebwe, who, of course, started ball gates between the Bucks and the Indiana Pacers. But that's the group the Utah Jazz are rolling out there. So Yusuf Nurkic and Kevin Love are both healthy but not playing. Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably going to miss the season. I didn't see what the ailment was tonight for Lauri Markkanen, but Lauri Markkanen unavailable in this game. Keontae George, conspicuous by his absence as well. So that's what we've come to expect from the Utah Jazz. And to your point, you got 2 games left against them. So you better win those games is the point of all of this, especially considering Utah has had somewhat, frankly, should be viewed as embarrassing losses the Bucks have suffered at the hands of the Jazz the last couple of years. So especially knowing, look, this lineup we just went through, this rotation, that's what I expect to see go forward in a lot of these games. You better win those games against the Utah Jazz. The other game that's being played is at the half in Los Angeles. No Cooper Flag, but Mavs are hanging tough with the Lakers right now, 64-63. There is one thing in this game that stands out to me. Have you seen the Mavs play any games since the trade deadline?
Not since, no.
So they obviously traded Anthony Davis, and one of the players that came over in that Anthony Davis trade was Chris Middleton. He is, let's see, who has it?
The big return for the Mavs for Luka Doncic.
I mean, you turn Luka Doncic into Chris Middleton. What am I missing? Who wears 22 in Dallas? Because Chris Middleton is wearing number 20 with the Mavericks. And, I mean, like, seeing Chris Middleton wear the number 20, seeing Chris Middleton wear anything that isn't 22 would be like seeing Aaron Rodgers put on a Bears uniform, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what is... But Chris Middleton, and look, we talked about this too of, well, what about a buyout candidate for Chris Middleton? Like, you still need a small forward, and I understand some of the defensive issues and deficiencies that are there, but, hey, Chris Middleton can run your second unit offense. By the way, it would probably help to say, hey, Giannis, remember Chris? Like, we're bringing him back, and we'd be open to signing him in the offseason too. It doesn't sound like the Mavs are going to buy him out. That Jason Kidd obviously has a history with Chris Middleton, and a lot of the thought is, no, like, this is the exact type of guy we would like to keep around to help us develop Cooper Flag. So it seems like Chris Middleton is going to be stuck in Dallas and going to be stuck in the number 20, at least for the remainder of this season. So those are the only other two games that are being played right now. But you're tied for 11th. None of us thought 11th is where this team would be going into the All-Star break, which is why the crazy part is we're going into the break with optimism, despite the fact that you are 11th in the Eastern Conference standings and 7 games below 500, but you've started to see a trend now. So hopefully the layoff from the break doesn't kind of zap that momentum and you can continue to build things here. Look, at this point, you are 6 games behind the Sixers in the loss column. I don't think it's realistic to say the Bucks could really, even 7th is going to be tough. Realistically, at this point, barring this being very real and all of a sudden this team just continues to win at this rate, 8 is probably your ceiling at this point. And again, as we touched on, that is because of the hole that you dug yourself. But 8 is probably most realistic. So the thing to think about over the break before we reconvene and as you start to see more and more of these final scores is, okay, if 8 is probably it, who's that team that is going to fall out of the mix that the Bucks are going to jump in front of to get into the playoffs? Realistically, it's coming down to Orlando, Miami, Charlotte, and Atlanta. Which one of those teams is dropping out of the playoffs altogether? I don't think it's Charlotte. I think a lot of people would probably say Atlanta. Simply, look, Atlanta can have 2 picks in this summer's draft, even though they don't have their own. They could still end up with 2 good picks. And some of these moves, too, it does kind of feel like, okay, it's been disappointing. This hasn't been our year. Let's just continue to develop these guys and see what we can get in the draft. And then it's, full systems go next season. Miami's the interesting one to me, because they got off to a tremendous start early in the season. Their offense was, incredible, best in the league. The pace that they were playing at, they were really, really clicking on all cylinders. Norm Powell's been fantastic for the Miami Heat. They're basically 500 now at 29 and 27. And we referenced the games you have remaining against Miami. That offense in the early going, it was smoke and mirrors for that group. You know, from 13 and 6, I believe, was their high point this season, to the rest of the way, they've gone 16 and 21. Miami kind of feels like they're just gradually losing steam, and slowly in this marathon, other teams are gonna start to catch them. So to me, Miami is the team to keep an eye on in how far do they continue to slide, and how high can you climb if you're the Bucks. Did you see that meme too of the Charlotte Hornets crashing the party in the play-in tournament, where it was just the Heat, the Hawks, and the Bulls all surrounding
the usuals,
the usuals, and looking at them. I mean, if the Bucks are in the play-in tournament too,
a Bucks-Hornets matchup would save the play-in tournament. That would be electric.
The Bucks being that group and getting into that mix too, it would kind of be like Miami, Atlanta, Chicago. Like, they're the neighbors that have been in the neighborhood for a long time, and the Bucks are that was the rich family that lived down the street that never associated with you, and then the dad lost his job and got divorced, and now all of a sudden he wants to be friends with you. Like, that's the Bucks joining the play-in tournament with those teams. But I mean, that's the ceiling at this point, right? Probably 8. I don't want to cap it too much, because who knows? Maybe Ousmane Dieng is in fact for real, and he and Giannis are going to be the new terror twins. But it's probably 8 for the Bucks. And look, that's the other thing, is we will have much more time in the second half of the season to go over the whys and everything else and continue to track the playoff odds. But you got to get that 7-8 line, because the difference between finishing 8th and 9th is monumental. If you finish 8th, you're playing your first game on the road, but you can lose that game and still have a chance. So 7 plays 8. The winner of that game is the 7 seed. 9 plays 10. The loser of that game is eliminated. So if you're on the 9-10 line, you have to win your head-to-head against the other team, and then you have to go on the road and win against whoever lost the 7-8. So, like, if you get up to number 8, you only go 1-1 to get into the playoffs, versus we got to win 2 games, and if you're the 10 seed, you got to win 2 games on the road. So the 8 seed is of the utmost importance if you're going to get into the play-in tournament. Next Friday, 7 o'clock tip from New Orleans for the Bucks and the Pelicans. That's when we return to the airwaves, their first game out of the All-Star break, and who knows, maybe we'll see Giannis. It certainly is starting to feel like it. And can they make this then 6 out of 7 games and continue to build on this streak? 7 o'clock tip-off next Friday. 6:30 is when the pregame coverage begins. And as always, be sure to stick around after the game for Bucks Talk. We'll talk with you once again Friday night.
You're invited. Vince Vitrano here for Colette Vacations, and I would love for you to join us. Southern Italy and